I have started a new channel called Lanila Tales. Please subscribe and watch my best stories there. Link is in the description. People think the most dangerous moment of a war is when bullets start flying. They are wrong. The most dangerous moment is when something looks human, breathes like a man, bleeds like a man, and yet every part of your instinct screams run. That was exactly how we felt the day we captured him. Not because he threatened us. No. Because he surrendered too easily. The sun was sinking behind the missile-blasted hills of northern Carthage, staining the sky orange and violent red. Smoke still climbed from collapsed bunkers around us. The last rebel stronghold had fallen, and our squad was sweeping the ruins to confirm no survivors remained. It should have been routine. It should have been quiet. It should have ended that day. Instead, that was the day the old wars began again. Sergeant Cole was the first to spot him, crouched in a crater as if he had fallen from the sky and smashed directly into the earth. He wore armor unlike anything we had ever seen, not from any known nation or military branch. Raw iron plates lined with leather straps covered his chest and arms, and a tattered red cloak fluttered from his shoulders. It looked straight out of history books. Ancient. Impossible. His helmet, glossy red and crested with a horsehair plume, cast his face in shadow. At first we thought he was just another rebel fanatic who found some cosplay armor and decided to die in style. But rebels do not kill 20 men with bare hands. Rebels do not move like lightning. Rebels do not break a grown sergeant's arm in 3 places and then stand still, calm as a monk in a temple. He waited for us to circle him. Then he spoke. "Come." That was all he said. 10 men moved in. 7 walked away. When I say walked away, I mean limped, crawled, and cried their way to the medics while swearing violently. We pointed rifles at him. He did not flinch. Private Diaz struck him with a rifle, but the man caught the weapon and bent the steel barrel like it was made of licorice. We froze. He could have killed all of us, but instead he straightened his spine and extended both wrists forward. He was surrendering. Maybe he was some augmented experiment gone rogue. Maybe he was a genetically modified supersoldier from one of the outlaw nations. Maybe he was insane. Whatever he was, Command wanted him alive. So we bound him in reinforced titanium restraints, loaded him onto a transport carrier, and brought him to Black Site 11. I remember thinking during the ride that war had already given me more horrors than I could count. But something about this man turned my bones to ice. He felt wrong, like he did not belong in our world. At Black Site 11, deep beneath the Greek mountains, interrogation procedures began. That was when I was assigned to observe him as part of the intelligence team. My name is Dr. Ilara Marin, linguistic anthropologist. I studied lost dialects, ancient civilizations, forbidden histories. So when I first saw him sitting on a cold metal bench in a holding cell, staring at the wall as if calculating something no one else could see, I was curious before I was afraid. Only later would I understand that I should have been terrified from the first moment. He refused water. Refused food. Medical scans revealed higher bone density than any recorded human. His muscles showed no signs of fatigue even after restraint testing. He did not blink for 9 straight minutes. Major Honig tried interrogation first. State your name. No response. Where are you from? Silence. What nation are you affiliated with? Nothing. If you don't answer, we will detain you indefinitely. That was when he slowly turned his head and spoke for the first time since his capture. His voice was deep but controlled. It carried the weight of command, of discipline, of someone who had never once feared death. You think you captured me? Major Honig frowned. Speak clearly. The prisoner looked straight into Honig's eyes. I am exactly where I need to be. We tried English, French, Russian, codes. He ignored everything. It was as if he only spoke in dramatic riddles to annoy us. It was Diaz who figured it out by accident. He had slipped into the cell block whispering a joke about Greek warriors not needing showers because they were too busy fighting naked in history. At that moment, the prisoner's head moved sharply, as if the word Greek had triggered something. So I approached the cell and did what no one else had tried. I spoke to him in classical Greek. "Tizii?" I asked. "Who are you?" For the first time, his eyes widened slightly. He answered, "Damon, son of Agesilaus, phalanx commander of Sparta." I stared at him in shock. Sparta had not existed for more than 2,000 years. The dialect he used was perfect. Precise. Not like a scholar. Not like a historian. Like a man who had lived it. "That is not possible," I said. He tilted his head. "What year is this?" 2035, I replied. His eyes narrowed. Then he said something I did not expect from someone claiming to be an ancient warrior. "Then we are already too late." I asked him what he meant, but he shut down again. He sat perfectly still, staring at the reinforced wall. The psychologists observing him whispered about dissociative identity disorders. The generals whispered about biochemical enhancements. The rest of the soldiers whispered about curses, ghosts, and angry Spartan gods. One thing was certain. He did not act like a prisoner. He behaved like a man waiting for something. We continued interrogations. He continued to ignore us. Until one night he spoke again, unprovoked. He looked directly at the security camera and said a single sentence in Greek. "A warning. Release me or face the wrath of Lake Demon." At the time we had no idea what that meant. We would soon learn. 2 days later something hit our perimeter defense grid hard enough to trigger a red level alarm. Something fast. Something strong. Something that should not exist. Surveillance drones captured only a blur moving across the night sky. Tech analysts tried to slow the footage. They found teeth. Too many teeth. Everyone rushed to the command center. Weapons were distributed. Defenses were fortified. Then we heard it. A sound that cut through metal and bone alike. Something screeching from a world that did not belong to ours. Back in his cell, Damon had started to smile. That was the moment I understood that all of this had been planned. He had let us capture him. He had allowed himself to be brought to this place. He had waited. For what, we still did not know. But we were about to find out why Spartans do not take prisoners. Damon did not move when the alarm screamed through the base, but he did lift his head as though he were sensing something we could not. He turned slightly toward the cell door, and for the first time since we captured him, I saw something other than cold calculation in his eyes. Recognition. Whatever had come for him outside, he knew it. It was not fear that touched his expression, but something far more unsettling. Satisfaction. In the command center, chaos ruled. Red lights pulsed across the halls and armed soldiers swarmed toward the elevators. Radios crackled with panicked voices trying and failing to identify the intruders. The outer perimeter had been breached, and the automated turrets at Gate 3, hardened against aircraft and drones, were silent. Something had disabled them. I watched the monitors as black static flickered across half the screens. A technician cursed loudly. He rebooted the satellite feeds. What came back was not reassuring. Bodies. Not ours. Something else. I needed answers. I left the command center and returned to the interrogation block. The guards outside Damon's cell had raised their rifles, backs pressed nervously to the wall as if they were guarding not a prisoner, but a hostage situation where they were the hostages. As I approached, one of them grabbed my arm. "Do not go in there, doctor. He knows something and he is not telling us. He just sits there. Watching. Listening. He is going to tell me," I said and entered the cell. Damon was seated on the bench, staring at the metal door as though he could see straight through it. "What is outside?" I asked. "You called them," he said. "We called nothing." He gave me a look that made the room feel 10 degrees colder. "Then they found me faster than I had hoped." "Who are they?" His gaze hardened. "The same ones your ancestors feared long before you had alphabets and laws. The ones Sparta was created to fight." "You expect me to believe that," I said. Damon shrugged slightly. "Your belief is irrelevant. Reality remains." The ground shook. Dust drifted from the ceiling vents. Explain, I demanded. He studied me for a long moment. In your language, you might call them devourers. That sounds like something from a bad monster movie, I said. He almost smiled. If only. Monsters are born from nightmares. These make nightmares from truth. Another explosion rocked the facility. The emergency lights died for a moment before flickering back. Somewhere deeper in the base, someone was screaming over the intercom before their voice was cut short. Something had reached the lower levels. We need everyone to the upper bunker, came a voice over the loudspeaker. Evacuate the lower block now. I could not leave. Not yet. Why did you warn us to release you? I asked. Damon stood, the chains on his wrists clinking like a war drum. Because I am the only one here who can fight them. I shook my head. We have drones, exosuit soldiers, hypersonic artillery. We can handle whatever this is. He stepped closer. The room felt suddenly smaller. Technology is a tool. Tools can break. But a weapon becomes a weapon only when wielded by one who understands war. You think you understand war, I said. He leaned closer, eyes burning with something ancient and violent. I was forged in war. A violent crash shook the cell block. Metal tore like paper somewhere in the corridor. One of the guards yelled for backup, but his voice was cut off by something wet and sharp. I grabbed the keycard from the nearest panel and deactivated Damon's restraints. If I was wrong, I had just unleashed a murderer. If I was right, he might be the only thing standing between us and whatever was tearing through the space. The door outside exploded inward and a creature crawled in. At least, part of it had once been animal, but something had twisted it beyond nature. Its skin looked like burned tar. Silver tendrils pulsed beneath it like exposed veins. Its jaws unhinged impossibly wide, revealing teeth like serrated bones. The room smelled like death and burnt metal. The creature lunged at me first. I stumbled backward, hitting the wall. The thing came fast, faster than a wolf, faster than anything should move. Then Damon stepped between us. He caught the creature by the throat with one hand and slammed it into the wall so hard the concrete cracked. It screeched and clawed at him, but Damon did not flinch. He drove his fist through its skull like punching into rotten fruit. The thing went limp instantly. He dropped the corpse and spoke calmly. Now we go. Go where? I asked, still trying to process the fact that he had just killed something that shrugged off gunfire. Out of here. He took a guard rifle and tossed another one to me. You fight too, he said. I am a linguist, not a soldier. He gave me a single, dismissive look. Then learned quickly. The emergency shutters began to seal through the cell block as Damon kicked open the door. We moved through a smoke-filled hallway littered with twisted metal and the bodies of soldiers who had not lasted long enough to fire a single shot. Strange claw marks ran along the walls, deep and burning. It looked like acid had been dragged through steel. We moved up a stairwell to the upper deck, but Damon stopped suddenly. He sniffed the air. They are hunting by sound. I hesitated. How do you know that? Because I have fought them for years, he said. Then you are not from the past, I said. He turned slightly. Who said anything about the past? Before I could question him, another creature dropped from the ceiling behind us. Damon shoved me aside and took the hit. The thing clung to his back like a monstrous parasite, biting at his shoulder. Damon slammed himself into the wall again and again until the creature loosened. Then he lifted it by the throat and snapped its spine with brutal efficiency. More are coming, he said. We must move. Now. We reached the main hallway leading to the evacuation lifts, only to find a firefight already raging. Soldiers were pinned behind overturned barricades. Bullets tore through smoke as more creatures crawled through the breach. Major Honig spotted us. What the hell is he doing free? Saving your life apparently, I said. Honig swore and emptied another magazine into the hallway. Nothing stopped the creatures for long. Get to the lift, Honig yelled. No, Damon said. That lift is a trap. How do you know that? Honig snapped. Because it is where I would kill you if I were them. The creatures hit harder, faster. Damon snatched a fallen soldier's combat blade and waded into the swarm with frightening power. He fought like nothing I had ever seen. No wasted motion. Every strike lethal. He moved like a storm. A soldier behind me whispered the words that had already formed in my own mind. He fights like a Spartan. Damon crushed the last creature and turned to us. His face was splattered with black blood, but his eyes were calm. Listen to me, he said. This attack is only the beginning. The true war has not yet reached your world. What world are they from? I asked. The ground shook so hard that dust drifted from the ceiling like ash from a burning sky. Somewhere deep beneath the facility, metal screamed. Not the groan of collapsing steel, but the shriek of something breaking through it. Whatever had invaded the base had not come to fight us. It had come to reach him. The prisoner. Damon of Sparta. Or whatever he truly was. His eyes were already fixed toward the sound as though he had known exactly where the next attack would strike before it even happened. We have little time, he said. Gather only those willing to follow. The rest will die. Major Honnick rounded on him with a snarl. You do not give orders here. You are still a prisoner. Then Damon shoved him aside without hesitation and strode forward. Honnick went for his gun, but the barrel was suddenly under Damon's palm, pointed away from everyone. Damon did not say another word. The look he gave Honnick was enough. You want to stay alive, follow. Or die proud and stupid. Honnick hesitated, eyes burning with conflict. But survival is a language even pride understands. He followed. A security blast door came crashing down behind us, sealing off the lower level entirely. Men pounded on the other side, screaming to be let through. Then one scream rose above the rest. A wet, tearing sound followed, and the screams stopped. A line of blood pooled under the door. Damon never looked back. We need to reach the north exit tunnel, I said. It leads straight to the surface. No, Damon said. They will already be there. Then how do we get out? Honnick demanded. By going where they do not want us to, Damon replied. Down. Down leads to the geothermal reactor core, I said. If they breach it, the whole mountain will collapse. Exactly, Damon said. That is insanity, Honnick shouted. That is war, Damon replied. We moved fast. Damon led without hesitation, navigating the labyrinth as if he had memorized its layout in minutes. Maybe he had. I was slowly beginning to realize that he was not merely strong. His mind was a weapon too. The deeper levels were dark. Emergency power flickered in blood-red pulses along narrow corridors lined with exposed pipes and heat vents. Steam hissed from ruptured lines. In the distance, the walls convulsed. Something alive was burrowing through the rock. What are these things? Honnick muttered, checking behind us. Damon answered without looking at him. Scouts. Harvesters. They are sent ahead to find gates. Gates to where? I asked. To the spaces between worlds, Damon said. To the places your scholars call myths and your priests call curses. You mean like magic? Honnick said with disbelief. Magic is just science too old for you to understand, Damon said. Then he paused. No. Magic is too gentle a word for this. We reached a thick sealed hallway door. Restricted access. Damon pressed his hand against the lock panel. It scanned him. The display flashed red. Access denied? He tore the panel off with one hand and jammed two fingers into the wiring beneath, twisting metal and sparks until the hydraulic locks hissed open. That should not have worked, I muttered. Locks are made to keep men out, Damon said. I am no man. The door groaned apart, and a wave of heat rushed out. The geothermal chamber pulsed with molten light below. Ramps spiraled downward toward the fusion engines and coolant systems that kept the entire mountain stable. Honnick stepped back. We cannot go in there. The radiation alone will fry us in minutes. Not if we move quickly, Damon said. You will kill us all, Honnick snapped. Damon turned his head slowly. I am not here to die. I am here to win. Before Honnick could argue further, a scream cut through the air behind us. A lone soldier came running down the corridor covered in blood. He collapsed at our feet, shaking and pale. Help me, he whispered. Please, they are coming. Damon looked at his left arm. Black veins were spreading under the skin. The infection. Damon seized the arm and without warning snapped it at the elbow. The soldier screamed. "What are you doing?" I shouted. "The poison travels through the blood," Damon said. So we stopped the blood. Before any of us could react, Damon took Honik's combat blade and cauterized the wound with the burning pipe nearby. The soldier screamed again, then passed out from shock. Honik raised his weapon in fury. "Touch another soldier, and I will shoot you myself." Damon stared at him unfazed. "If I had not done that, he would have turned within minutes. Then he would have killed you." "Slowly," turned Honik said. "Into what?" "Something worse than these," Damon said, gesturing to the dark tunnel beyond. "A devourer in disguise. That is how they infiltrate. Through the wounded. Through mercy." Chills crawled up my spine. That was when I understood something horrible. Spartans do not take prisoners because prisoners are the fastest way to lose a war. Pity was a weakness their enemy used. We carried the unconscious soldier with us down the ramp. The heat thickened with every step. Sweat streamed from our faces. My lungs felt heavier. A strange rumble echoed up from the core. It was rhythmic, almost like breathing. We reached a narrow metal bridge suspended over a river of molten rock. Damon crossed first. I followed, gripping the rail hard. Honik came last, keeping his weapon ready, though we all knew it would do little against what hunted us. Then everything stopped. Time slowed. Something emerged from the shadows on the far end of the bridge. Larger than the others. Taller than a man, but not by much. Its body was sleek black metal fused with flesh like a nightmare born of fire and steel. Its limbs were long and razor-edged. Its head was a skull of molten glass. But its eyes were alive. Two burning coals that fixed directly on Damon. And Damon stared back as if seeing an old enemy. "What is that?" I whispered. "A hunter," Damon said. "One of their captains." The creature crouched, then launched itself forward with terrifying speed. Damon roared something in Greek that shook the walls and charged to meet it. They collided in a flash of metal and molten sparks. The shockwave nearly threw me from the bridge. Damon swung his blade, but the creature dodged faster than anything that large should move. It slashed back and blood sprayed across the metal. Damon did not fall. He countered with brutal efficiency, grabbing the beast's arm and driving his knee into its spine. A crack echoed. The hunter twisted and threw Damon against the rail, bending it outward. They fought like warriors forged in different hells. Damon broke its jaw. It tore into his shoulder. He crushed its ribs. It drove him to his knees. At last Damon seized it by the skull and forced its head into the molten river below. The creature screeched a sound like breaking worlds before it fell silent and dissolved into fire. Damon rose slowly, breathing hard. "You should not have come here," he said to no one. Honik looked at him, then at the molten pit where the creature had vanished. "What are they, Damon? What are you?" Damon looked up at us. His eyes were no longer cold. They were burning with purpose. "I told you before. I am Spartan. And this war did not start with you. It started long before. And if we do not reach the gate at Mount Tagetus before they do, your world will become a grave." Before anyone could speak, a roar shook the chamber. More things were coming. Many more. Damon lifted his blade and turned down the ramp that led even deeper. "This way," he said. "If we want to survive, we go through the fire." None of us hesitated. The war had only just begun. Cold mountain wind cut across my face as we stood beneath the towering shadow of Mount Tagetus. Snow dusted the rocky slopes, though the air felt strangely warm, as if something beneath the surface breathed heat into the land. We had escaped Black Site 11 through the emergency tunnel network beneath the geothermal chamber, emerging miles away through a forgotten exit carved into ancient stone. We lost half our people along the way, but we survived, just barely. Or rather, we survived because Damon willed it. He never slowed once, never hesitated, never questioned where to go. He moved like a man who had been here before. He knew this mountain. He belonged to this mountain. That terrified me more than anything, because it meant his story might actually be true. The rest of us were silent as we crossed jagged slopes and thick pine forests. The surviving soldiers followed Damon not because he outranked them, but because everything hunting us was more afraid of him than of our weapons. Hanik stayed close behind, still glaring with distrust but saying nothing. He had lost his defiance back in the tunnels. After what we witnessed, doubting Damon felt like doubting gravity. As for me, I could no longer pretend logic applied. Not after seeing creatures made of living metal tear through military defenses like paper. Not after watching Damon crush them with his bare hands. Not after seeing symbols in the rock that matched ancient Spartan carvings predating any known civilization. Something impossible was unfolding around us, and that impossibility had a name. Taygetus. We stopped at a ridge overlooking a steep valley. Damon knelt in the snow and brushed away a layer of frost to reveal a stone slab chiseled with markings in Doric Greek. I recognized a few words. Lake Demon. Guardians. Blood Oath. Then there was a symbol I had never seen before. It looked like a spiral surrounding a sword. This is a boundary marker, I said. But it should not exist. The dialect is thousands of years old, but this carving looks recent. Damon stared at the inscription. It is not recent. Time moves differently here. What does that mean? I asked. It means we are close. He stood and walked toward a narrow path winding along the cliff. No one questioned him now. The trail narrowed until we had to travel single file along a sheer drop. Below us, ancient pine trees swayed in the wind. Stark quiet surrounded us. No signs of birds or animals. Even the wind felt hesitant here, as though the mountain itself waited. We reached a stone archway halfway up the cliff. It was formed not by tools but by nature, and yet perfectly symmetrical. Damon paused in front of it. He closed his eyes, pressed his palm against the rock, and whispered a single sentence in Greek. The oath endures. Then something happened I could not explain. The air shifted. The stone trembled. Symbols ignited across the arch in faint golden light, forming patterns too complex to follow. A sound like stone grinding against stone echoed, and the cliff face beyond the arch split open to reveal a hidden passage descending into darkness. Hanik stepped back in alarm. How did you do that? The Spartans built this place, Damon said. This mountain is not only a mountain. It is a fortress. A fortress against what? Hanik asked. Against the devourers, Damon answered. We followed him inside. The passage sloped downward and widened into massive halls carved with pillars sculpted in the likeness of warriors holding shields and spears. Their faces were not stoic like the statues in museums. They looked furious, determined, terrifying, like warriors carved in a moment of rage. Torches along the walls flickered to life, though no one lit them. Fire burned without fuel. The deeper we went, the warmer the air became. This cannot be real, I whispered. This entire structure has been here for thousands of years and we never found it. You did not find it, Damon said, because it did not want to be found. We reached a vast circular chamber. In the center stood a stone platform surrounded by 20 pillars, each inscribed with runes older than any written language. In the middle of the platform was a massive stone disc reinforced with bronze and sealed shut by a complex locking mechanism. Symbols of war were etched across it. Spears, shields, serpents, wolves, lightning. This is it, I said. The gate. Yes, Damon replied. Gate to what exactly? I asked. Gate to the lower world, Damon said. To their world. Why build a gate here? Hanik asked. Why leave it at all? Why not destroy it? Because, Damon said, and his voice grew quiet, this is not the only gate. The room fell silent. He stepped onto the platform and approached the sealed disc. He placed his hand on it with reverence and grief. Sparta was never just a city, he said. It was a shield. A wall between your world and theirs. My people made a vow thousands of years ago. To guard this place. To guard all the gates. Then he turned and looked at us. Every one of us felt pinned by his stare. When people speak of Sparta today, they talk of warriors. They do not know why we fought. They think we fought Persians. That was a battle. Not the war. They think we trained our children in pain because we were cruel. No. We trained them because we knew what was coming for them if we failed. They think we took no prisoners because we had no mercy. No. We took no prisoners because the devourers corrupt the weak. Capture is worse than death. Infection spreads through hesitation. Through compassion without discipline. That is why we took no prisoners. A long stillness followed. For the first time I understood what he had been trying to tell us all along. Spartans did not die out. They were consumed by a war no one else knew existed. Then Damon said the last thing I expected. We are not alone in this mountain. Every light in the chamber flickered. A cold wind rose from nowhere. The symbols on the pillars ignited with blue light. And from the shadows emerged figures. Tall. Silent. Armored in red and bronze. Shields in formation. Spears locked forward. Spartans. Not statues. Not ghosts. Warriors. Alive. I could not speak. None of us could. They advanced in perfect formation, forming a circle around Damon as if he were their commander. One stepped forward, removing his helmet. He was scarred. Weathered. Eyes as cold as iron. He knelt before Damon and spoke in ancient Greek. Epher, Damon, son of Agesilaus. We have waited for your return. Epher, Hanik repeated. I thought Ephers were Spartan judges. They were, Damon said, but when the Devourer War began, one Epher was chosen among them as battle commander. He served until death or until the war ended. The soldier who had knelt before him lifted his gaze. We waited for you. We dreamed in the stasis halls until your call awakened us. Dreamed, Hanik asked. You mean frozen? Suspended, Damon said. Time does not rule this place. Only will. Then suddenly another voice spoke behind us, low and sinister. Touch the gate and I will burn this mountain to the ground. We turned. A dozen soldiers in advanced black ops armor stood at the entrance, rifles raised. Their commander stepped forward. United Nations Task Force Omega. Highly classified. Elite. Ruthless. Hanik swore. Colonel Voss. Gunfire exploded so suddenly that the air itself seemed to tear apart. Sparks erupted as bullets slammed into bronze shields, ricocheting wildly across the ancient chamber. The awakened Spartan warriors moved as one, shields locking into a tight wall that defied the full barrage of Task Force Omega. Behind them Damon stood motionless, eyes focused, as if he had expected this betrayal from the beginning. His warriors did not break formation. They advanced. Omega soldiers adjusted firing patterns, switching to armor-piercing rounds and high-impact explosives, but the Spartans pushed forward as if born from a war that knew no such fear. When their shield wall closed the distance, they struck. Bronze crashed into steel. Spears thrust like lightning. Omega troops fell screaming as they were thrown aside like children hit by a wave. Colonel Voss roared orders over the chaos. He fired a plasma lance straight at Damon. Damon leaned aside as easily as if dodging a casual swing. He slammed his fist into the nearest Spartan shield. The formation split instantly, and he emerged at the center like the eye of a storm. He moved toward Voss with terrifying precision. Hanik grabbed my arm, dragging me behind a shattered pillar. Stay low. Do not get caught in the crossfire. Caught in the crossfire sounded innocent compared to what was happening. This was not a battle. This was history and future colliding in a single violent moment. Bronze Age war meeting modern guns, and neither side willing to give an inch. Damon was a force of nature. He tore a rifle from an Omega soldier and flung him against a wall so hard his armor cracked. Another lunged from behind, but Damon crushed his helmeted skull with a brutal headbutt. Blood splashed across his jaw, but his expression never changed. We have to stop this, I shouted over the chaos. If they damage the gate, we are all dead. Hanik reloaded his weapon, shaking his head. This is not a fight we can stop. This is a war. And it started long before we got here. Suddenly the ground trembled. A violent tremor ripped through the chamber. Ancient stone cracked under our feet. Something was wrong. Something worse than the battle. Damon must have sensed it too, because he turned sharply away from Voss, his eyes fixed on the gate. No, he growled. The bronze seals of the gate were glowing faint blue and pulsing like a heartbeat. Ancient runes carved into the platform flared to life with ghostly light. Something was waking beneath. Voss fired a grappling spike that latched around Damon's wrist, yanking him backward. "You are going to open it," Voss shouted. "Whether you want to or not." Damon tore the cable from his arm and advanced with deadly intent, but before he could reach Voss, one of the Spartans collapsed with a gaping wound in his chest. A blast had torn straight through his shield. More followed. Omega had switched strategies. They were no longer firing at the Spartans. They were firing at the platform. "Stop shooting there," I yelled. "You are destabilizing it." Voss did not even glance at me. "Good. Then it will open faster." The gate let out a deep bone-shaking groan. The bronze disc split along its seams. Smoke and black mist seeped through the widening cracks. Damon roared a command in Greek, and the Spartans surged to form a shield wall around him as he reached the console of runes. He was trying to close it, but the damage had already been done. "Elara," Damon shouted. "Here now." I sprinted to him, heart pounding. I had no idea what to do, but I went anyway. "Translate this," he said, pressing my hand onto a series of symbols. I knew the dialect, but not this specific configuration. It was written like a command but also a warning. Then the meaning clicked, and I felt my blood run cold. "It says once opened the gate must be sealed from the other side." Nick heard. "Which means someone has to stay behind." "No, not someone. All of us," Damon said. Before anyone could respond, an explosion of blinding blue light erupted from the gate, sending shockwaves through the chamber. Voss and his men were thrown to the ground. The Spartans held their ground but barely. Stone shattered. Pillars cracked. And then the gate fully opened. A wall of darkness poured out like liquid night. Shapes moved within it, crawling and slithering. Tall, gaunt figures with blade-like limbs. Hounds made of bone and smoke. Something with too many eyes and a face that was not a face at all. The creatures poured into the chamber, filling the air with shrieks that made bones ache. Damon seized my arm. "You must go now." "No," I said. "Not without you." His voice was steady even as the creatures surged forth. "I will cross the gate. I will seal it from within. You will die. If I stay, you will die. If they pass into your world, your entire species dies." He looked past me to Hanik. "Protect her." Hanik gritted his teeth and nodded once. The Spartans formed a spear line facing the gate. The creatures crashed into them, and the chamber burst into war again, 10 times more violent than before. Damon fought his way through the wave, cutting down devourers with a scorched blade pulled from one of his warriors. The creatures hissed, recoiling from the weapon. "They fear fire," I shouted. "No," Damon said. "They fear will." Voss stumbled to his feet, firing blindly. He screamed over the noise. "You idiot! You could have given us power beyond imagining." Damon kept moving. "You do not seek power. You seek control. That is why you will always kneel to things born without fear." Voss lunged at Damon with a plasma blade, but Damon moved faster. He slammed Voss to the ground and pressed the blade into his armor until the metal began to melt. Then he left him. Voss screamed in agony, but Damon was already gone. He reached the gate. He turned back only once. "Elara, your world must remember this. It must be ready. The devourers will not stop. Someone must carry the oath." "What oath?" I asked. "Sparta does not fall," he said. "Not while one warrior still draws breath." Then he stepped into the darkness. The chamber shook as Damon vanished through the gate. The rune console erupted in light. I ran to it, slamming my hand against the symbols, finishing the command Damon had started. The gate screamed. The bronze rings began closing. The suction of collapsing energy tried to drag us in. Hanik grabbed me, pulling me back. The last thing I heard before the gate sealed was Damon's voice, carried on a final echo. "No retreat. No surrender." Then the gate shut and the mountain fell silent. Every devourer still inside was crushed into dust. The surviving Spartans stood bloody but alive. Colonel Voss lay unconscious. The war had ended. No. Not ended. Changed. Because Damon had sealed the gate from the other side. He had not died. He had gone to where the real war waited. He was fighting still. Smoke drifted in slow spirals across the ruined chamber, and the air smelled of iron and stone dust. Cracks veined the walls, and the last fading glow from the sealed gate pulsed once, like a dying heartbeat, before vanishing forever. The silence that followed pressed against my ears until I could hear nothing but my own pulse. Damon was gone. He had crossed into the darkness, alone, and sealed the gate behind him. We survived because of him. This world still breathed because of him. But the question that weighed on me heavier than the mountain around us was how long that would remain true. The surviving Spartans stood like statues amid the rubble. Their red cloaks were torn and stained dark with blood that did not all belong to them. They exchanged no words. They did not cheer or mourn. Their discipline was absolute. They had faced death as calmly as they faced life. Nick checked on the injured soldiers near the broken archway while I knelt by the sealed bronze circle where Damon had vanished. I pressed my hand against it, hoping foolishly to feel warmth, or a pulse, or anything that told me he still lived. But the metal was cold and still. One of the Spartan warriors approached me. He was older than the others, gray streaking through his beard and deep battle scars lining his face, yet his movements were still precise and powerful. He looked down at me with calm curiosity. "You grieve," he said. "But grieving is for those who died without purpose." Damon did what he was born to do. "Born to fight alone," I said. "Born to protect those who cannot protect themselves," he said. "For that is the true oath of the warrior." He walked to the platform where the remaining Spartans gathered around their fallen. They lifted each body silently, and carried them into a side passage where ancient burial alcoves had been carved into the stone long ago. I watched them place each warrior inside with reverence. No funeral speeches. No rituals. Only silent respect. Nick joined me as I stood watching. He had a gash across his forehead, and one arm hung limp, but he moved with purpose. "We need to report what happened here," he said. "Report what exactly?" I said. "That the myths of Sparta were real. That an ancient war has been raging beneath our feet. That there are creatures made of living metal that want to consume our world. That Damon of Sparta sealed himself inside another dimension to save us. Who do you think is going to believe that?" He exhaled slowly. "Maybe they do not have to believe it. They just have to be ready for what comes next." I looked at him confused. "Next, our world will think the threat is gone. They will think the war is over." "The war is never over," Nick said. "We both know that now." Before I could answer, a heavy scrape echoed across the chamber. Colonel Voss was dragging himself upright. His armor was scorched and melted in places. His face bruised and burned. He glared at me with pure venom. "You think this is over," he said. "You have no idea what you just destroyed. That gate was the key to everything. We could have harnessed energy beyond anything on Earth. We could have built weapons that would make us unstoppable. And you threw it away." One of the Spartans moved toward him, but I raised a hand stopping him. "You do not understand anything," I said. "You think the Devourers would obey you. They do not serve. They do not bargain. They consume. They would have used you until nothing of you remained." Voss laughed bitterly. "I was ready to pay that price for power." "That is why you lost," I said. Voss glared at the Spartans. "You are all relics. You cannot protect anyone. You could not even protect your own people. The Spartans died because they were weak. Their time is over." The nearest Spartan stepped forward so fast that Voss flinched. He did not attack. He simply said only one sentence in a calm voice. "Sparta does not fall." Voss spat blood. "You are already extinct." "No," I said, stepping between them. "Not extinct. Just forgotten. But that ends now." Nick turned to me. "What are you saying?" I looked at the sealed gate. Damon had said someone must remember. Someone must carry the oath. Someone must be ready for when the war returned. Because it would return. Damon had not stopped it. He had only delayed it. "The world thinks history is complete," I said. "That humanity is alone. That what lies beneath our feet is dirt and stone and nothing more. But that is a lie. There are other worlds. Other wars. And walls can break. We need warriors who know how to stand when the world is about to fall. Nick stared. You mean to rebuild them? No, I said. Not rebuild. Continue them. The blood of warriors did not end in Sparta. It lives in every person who refuses to surrender to fear. Every soldier who stands when others flee. Every person who protects instead of conquers. The world does not need perfect warriors. It needs warriors with purpose. One of the Spartans looked at me with a strange expression. You speak of oaths you have not sworn. He was right. I knelt before the sealed gate and placed my palm over the cold surface. Then teach me. The chamber fell silent. I heard the wind outside the mountain. I heard my own heartbeat. I heard the echo of Damon's final words. No retreat. No surrender. I rose to my feet. I will not let his sacrifice end here, I said. I will keep his legacy alive. I will prepare this world. I will find those who can carry the oath. Warriors. Guardians. Whatever they choose to call themselves. The devourers will return one day. And when they do, we will be ready. The older Spartan nodded. Then rise, Elara. Daughter of no Spartan blood yet bound by Spartan oath. From this day forward you are a witness of Lake Demon. A keeper of the gate. And the first of the new. Nick stepped forward. Then make me the second. Someone has to teach these new warriors how to shoot. I gave a small laugh despite everything. Then a third voice spoke from behind us. And I will make sure the world hears the truth. To my shock, Private Diaz limped into the chamber leaning on a broken spear for support. He was bruised and pale, but his eyes burned with fire. You saved my life back there, he said. Both of you. I am not letting you do this alone. The Spartans studied him, then nodded in approval. One by one more survivors stepped forward. Soldiers once strangers, now united by a war no one else knew existed. A war Damon had given everything to fight. We walked out of the mountain together at dawn. The rising sun cut across the peaks and cast long shadows behind us as if history itself followed our steps. The air was crisp and quiet. Snow fell in soft flakes. For a moment the world looked peaceful. Almost innocent. Almost forgetting. But we would not forget. I paused at the ridge and looked back one last time. Taygetus stood silent and ancient. Beneath it Damon fought in a world of darkness, holding back the devourers with nothing but will and a warrior's code older than empires. I whispered to him, though he could not hear me. Sparta does not fall. I turned away and began the long descent. The path ahead was uncertain. The threat still real. But for the first time I did not feel afraid. Damon was not gone. He was the beginning of something greater. And when the devourers come again, they will learn what the world once forgot. Spartans do not take prisoners. Spartans return.